The story dives straight into the action, or rather, the inaction, since Hannah isn't exactly the type to work out. The only calorie burning she manages each day is the time she spends eating, and boy does she eat. Her weakness is anything sweet, especially donuts, which she devours like she doesn't even have time to think. But that doesn't mean she isn't smart. In fact, Hannah is a pretty well-respected scientist, but the respect she gets from others doesn't mean much compared to the self-respect she has lost along the way. No matter how much she tracks her sugar intake or saturated fats, all her intelligence is completely useless when she has zero self-control. So, the detailed notes she has taken over the last few weeks in her quest to shed some pounds have been a total waste of time. After messing up all her calculations, she opens a fresh blank page and writes down that her ideal weight would be 60 kilograms. With that brand new goal in mind, she finally decides to hit the gym. Alana, the gym receptionist, invites her to join a 12-week weight loss challenge, but Hannah isn't so sure she meets the criteria or has the guts to share her struggles with anyone else. This has been a deeply personal battle, and her true intention is to keep both her progress and her massive failures a total secret. That afternoon, after hitting the gym, Hannah attends her very first anatomy class, where they are introduced to who will be their teacher for the next 3 months. And no, it's not anyone living. It's the corpse of an overweight guy they are assigned to study in depth. Hannah is the first to volunteer to use the scalpel, but while she is making a flawless incision, she notices the cadaver's fingernails are painted the exact same color as hers. That completely throws her off balance, causing her to mess up the cut. Right then, she finds out the person was only a few years older than her, and they weren't really all that different. So for a split second, she sees her own future lying on that dissection table, and it hits her hard. When she gets home, she immediately removes her nail polish and goes out to grab a drink with her friends, revealing that today is her birthday, though she is not in the mood to celebrate. After a while, she gets up to use the restroom, and a girl named Melissa walks up to greet her. Hannah hadn't seen her old friend in over 5 years, but what shocks her the most is that Melissa used to be way heavier than her. It turns out she has been taking these pills called Gray, which made her drop weight like a miracle. She explains that they aren't fully approved, so you can't just get them at a regular pharmacy, but she is living proof that they work, and she has never felt better. So, she gives her 2 of them, one for tonight and one for tomorrow. If she notices any difference, she can give her a call. Once that is sorted out, it's finally time to have some fun. The next morning, Hannah wakes up in her room with a quick flashback of herself devouring a whole chicken in the middle of the party, but she also catches the sound of a guy whistling. When she reaches over to grab her phone, we can see in the reflection of an ashtray that there is a naked older man standing right beside her, though she can't see a thing. What she can see are the pizza boxes and food containers she scarfed down last night after getting home from the party, and she can't help but feel awful for giving in to gluttony yet again. But that isn't what shocks her the most. The real surprise comes when she weighs herself, as she does every single day, and discovers that even after eating so much, she actually managed to lose weight. After scrolling through a bunch of TikTok videos about heavy girls who are proud of their bodies, she decides to text Melissa and ask about the price of the supplements. But when she replies that she needs at least $5,000 for the initial doses, her hopes go straight down the drain. The next morning, she visits her parents, and from the outside, she can hear them arguing. Upon walking in, she finds her mother fixing a kitchen light all by herself, drowning in a puddle of tears. But the moment she sees her, she quickly wipes her face and puts on a fake smile to celebrate her birthday. For some unknown reason, her mother has decided to install security cameras all over the house, and the cake she baked for her turns out to be anything but delicious. It's an incredibly bland, diet-friendly cake. Hannah instantly realizes that her mother is trying to drop a hint that she needs to lose weight, using the cake to communicate instead of having a direct, honest conversation. Before leaving, Hannah lights a candle for her sister, whom she misses dearly, and then heads back home. The following morning, she is incredibly motivated to uncover the secret behind the pills. Since she has her scientific mind to rely on, instead of just taking the pill to drop a few pounds, she decides to bring it into the lab to fully analyze its chemical components. After spending the entire day breaking down the elements, she has successfully identified almost all of them. She is missing just a single one, an ingredient packed heavily with calcium phosphate. But racking her brain, she can't think of anything conventional that would fit the bill. After scratching her head for a while, it suddenly clicks. It's human ashes, but that makes absolutely no sense. That level of phosphate should boost your appetite rather than suppress it, and it definitely shouldn't be burning away fat. There is just zero logical explanation for what those pills contain. Once classes start, the students return to the corpse of the heavy woman, whom they decide to name Berta, to continue their studies and separate her ribs to examine her internal organs. After a long day of watching human bodies get dissected, Hannah lingers behind for a few minutes after everyone else leaves. She steals Berta's ribs, takes them over to the lab, and puts them in the furnace, yielding a good amount of ashes. Once she has the ashes back home, she successfully presses her very first homemade pill. Right before taking the huge gamble and swallowing it, she stares at herself in the mirror and says goodbye to her heavy self. Then, she opens her mouth and pops the pill, praying that it actually works. The next morning, she visits Alana, the gym receptionist, and the girl she has a crush on, to finally sign up for her workout program. She doesn't enjoy exercising one bit, but being around Alana gives her the motivation she needs to keep pushing forward. Later that night, while she is studying her medical flashcards, something bizarre happens. Her stomach starts growling loudly, and she realizes she hasn't eaten a single thing all day and hasn't felt any food anxiety whatsoever, so she gets up to make herself a quick snack. While the kettle is heating up in the kitchen, Hannah can clearly see Berta's reflection standing in her bathroom, completely naked. Obviously, when she turns around to look toward her bathroom, there is absolutely nothing there, but in the reflection, she can still see her staring back, and it's a moment of intense suspense that completely gives her goosebumps. Over the next few days, she kept hitting the gym regularly just to spend more time around Alana. On top of that, she managed to manufacture a whole new batch of pills, which she continued to pop day after day, and just as she had predicted, no matter what she ate, she kept shedding pounds. She wasn't entirely sure if it was because of the workouts or the pills, but she became completely addicted to that feeling. She would mindlessly devour whatever was put in front of her, and the next morning, she would wake up even thinner. Every single night, she consumed an obscene amount of sugar in the form of donuts, candies, and sweets, basically anything a kid in a candy shop would eat. And the next morning, her measurements just kept shrinking. When the first month of the 12-week challenge finally wrapped up, the change was plain to see on her face. She didn't look like her old self anymore, and she seemed so much happier. Alana congratulated her on her incredible progress, since she was among those who had dropped the most weight in the entire group. Alana was so thrilled with her results that she asked for permission to post a photo of them together on Instagram. That night, Hannah gained a handful of new followers who flooded her with comments congratulating her on her journey. But right as she was feeling on top of the world over what she was seeing on her phone, she began to hear what sounded like an incredibly heavy person pacing around her apartment, and it instantly made her feel completely unsafe. Berta's apparitions were becoming a regular occurrence, and since Hannah was an extremely logical and rational scientist, she began to think she was suffering from hallucinations or some severe side effect of the pills. She decided to study the phenomenon systematically, grabbing a mirror to see if she could trigger the event under controlled conditions. And that is exactly what happened. Looking into the reflection of a metal spoon, Hannah realized she could clearly see Berta standing right behind her. Not only that, but Berta was actively tailing her, staring at her with an eerie gaze. Her tracked data revealed a disturbing pattern. Berta materialized every single time she started to feel hungry. The next day, during anatomy class, she tried touching the cadaver to see if physical contact would cause some sort of reaction, but nothing happened, though her lab partners definitely noticed she was acting incredibly strange. The following morning, her mother drops by for a surprise visit and shows her a booked ticket to see Iguazu Falls, which has been her ultimate lifelong dream. However, Hannah immediately notices there is only one ticket, meaning her father won't be joining her. Her mother confesses that she has tried to make things work for 25 years, but she is completely exhausted and finally ready to start living life for herself. Because of this, she begs Hannah to check in on her dad at least once a week to make sure he is doing okay. After mindlessly devouring a couple of family-sized bags of potato chips to cope, Hannah decides to take a nap, but the moment she opens her eyes, she freezes in pure terror. There is Berta, massive, horrifying, and dead, hovering directly above her, slowly closing the distance. Worst of all, she feels completely trapped inside her own body and unable to move. Not until Berta hovers all the way down and presses her lips against hers in a disturbing kiss. That's when Hannah jolts awake, realizing it was all just a horrific nightmare. However, things take a turn for the worse when she notices her body is starting to show actual physical side effects. Her knuckles have turned completely dark, as if bruised, and she is overcome by an uncontrollable urge to seek physical self-gratification. Even with everything spinning out of control, Hannah keeps popping the pills, driven entirely by her obsession to spend time with Alana and become just as thin and gorgeous as her so they can finally be together. On top of that, she keeps slipping away during anatomy class to steal small fragments of bone from the cadaver, ensuring she has enough raw material to maintain her supply. In her mind, being haunted by the ghost of a heavy woman isn't nearly as traumatic as the painful life she was living before. before. But the strangest part is that Berta's presence in the apartment is becoming much stronger than she ever anticipated. Chairs start shifting on their own, and it feels as though the woman has become her permanent roommate, since Hannah can distinctly feel her weight on the furniture and sees her constantly. Yet Hannah is so deeply consumed by her food addiction and her overwhelming urges that she barely even notices. She just closes her eyes and focuses entirely on Alana, the ultimate goal behind everything she is doing. One night, after weighing herself, she realizes she has finally hit the lowest point on her tracker, meaning she just crushed her goal of weighing under 60 kilograms. Now, we can see a radical change in her face. She looks significantly thinner and happier, and she is fully convinced that this is the absolute perfect moment to ask Alana out. However, right after their workout, just when she thinks she has the perfect window of opportunity, Alana asks to speak with her in private to question her about a few things. She admits she is a bit worried because the drastic rate at which Hannah is losing weight doesn't seem healthy at all. She warns her that if she is skipping meals or starving herself to hit her targets, that is definitely not the way to go, and begs her to be completely honest. Hannah, for obvious reasons, cannot reveal her true secret. It would make her run for the hills instantly, which is the last thing she wants. The conversation ends in the worst possible way. Alana subtly makes it clear that she doesn't swing that way and suggests that maybe Hannah shouldn't continue with the program. She points out that if she is actually skipping meals or hurting herself, it would completely ruin her reputation as a trainer. Heartbroken after leaving the gym, Hannah heads straight to the supermarket to buy every single sweet and piece of junk food her credit card can possibly handle. That night, the second she walks into her apartment, she rips down all the motivational notes she had been worshipping over the last few weeks and gets ready to eat a chocolate bar, but suddenly freezes. The chocolate drops to the floor, but a few seconds later, something invisible kicks it right back toward her. When Hannah looks up, she can't see anyone in the room. Deciding to obey the bizarre phenomenon, she picks up the chocolate and starts eating it, devouring it in just a couple of bites. Seconds later, the next few chocolates start sliding closer to her until the entire bag shifts on its own and lands right by her side. Before she even realizes it, she has scarfed down absolutely everything. The following morning, her classmates notice she is a bit distracted and mockingly ask her how her fat camp is going. Hannah sharply tells them that she is already done with it and has no plans of ever going back. Right then, while examining Berta's organs in detail, they discover that she suffered from advanced liver cancer that had metastasized throughout her entire stomach, meaning she undoubtedly faced a pretty horrific and painful death. A few days later, Hannah pays her father a visit, but upon arriving, she notices that all the windows in the house are completely blacked out, and he hasn't left his bedroom in days. When he finally allows her to step inside the room, she simply drops off the bags of groceries she brought for him and leaves in silence, completely overwhelmed by the grim environment. That afternoon, she hits the gym, and Alana is absolutely thrilled to see her back, so much so that she decides to take her up on her offer. Once they are completely alone in the locker room, they share a passionate kiss, which feels like an absolute dream come true for Hannah, leaving her smiling like an idiot. After leaving the gym, she decides to ditch the pills for good, since she already achieved her goal. She breaks them down one by one and hides the ashes in a safe place where no one could ever find them. She gets rid of all the junk food and spends a good chunk of cash buying healthy groceries to completely overhaul her kitchen. By the end of the afternoon, we see her looking deeply satisfied with her brand new fridge stocked with healthy food. However, no matter what she does, the refrigerator door keeps swinging open on its own. She lifts up a spoon and realizes in pure horror that Berta is standing right behind her, intending for all that healthy food to go to waste, or for Hannah to devour the whole thing in a single sitting. Hannah flat out refuses to obey her, no matter how terrifying Berta looks through the reflection. A few seconds later, she dashes to her bedroom in a panic and tries to go to sleep, but Berta tails her, forces the bedroom door open, and climbs onto her bed, nearly crushing her with her massive weight. That night, Hannah does everything she can to just fall asleep, but she suddenly jolts awake only to find herself standing in the kitchen, wildly eating everything inside the fridge. It is in this chilling moment that she discovers that whenever she falls asleep, Berta takes absolute control of her body. Terrified by the situation, Hannah sets up an urgent meeting with Melissa and reveals the macabre secret behind the pills, asking if she has also managed to see strange things. Melissa confesses that during the entire time she was taking the supplements, she could feel a constant, unsettling sensation of being watched. However, after finishing the bottle, nothing bad ever happened again. Over the next few days, Hannah undergoes a battery of clinical tests, including sleep therapy evaluations, blood work, and even an ultrasound. The scan reveals that she has a small tumor on her pancreas, but fortunately, it is tiny and benign. Her doctor advises her not to worry too much and recommends trying to resolve her severe sleep issues with a more natural approach. That night, Hannah is unable to bring herself to go back to her apartment out of pure fear, so she heads over to the university library to focus on analyzing every possible scientific cause for what is happening to her. But after such a grueling day, she cannot help but fall fast asleep over her books. Right at that moment, we can see her right eye starting to move completely on its own, chillingly signaling that Berta is about to take absolute control of her body. For her second night away from home, Hannah pays Alana a special visit. After sharing a couple of beers, they let themselves go and begin to get intimate. This is exactly what Hannah had always dreamed of, and for a while, both of them are on cloud 9 together. The only problem is that Hannah feels so comfortable that she drifts completely textbook fast asleep. By the time she snaps out of it, she finds herself kneeling on Alana's living room floor after wildly devouring every scrap of food in sight and completely trashing a good part of the apartment. Without a second thought, she grabs her things and flees the apartment immediately. On her way back home, she realizes in pure horror that Berta is actively tailing her, so she dashes over to her parents' house and locks herself inside her bedroom to feel somewhat safe. A few seconds later, however, she catches the sound of incredibly heavy footsteps thudding closer and closer to her door. Hearing her father's voice calms her down a bit as he asks from the hallway if she is okay, but Hannah doesn't dare open the door because the real nightmare is creeping up from the window. The trees outside are swaying violently as if a rhino or some massive animal is charging toward the house, and a split second later, the window shatters completely. Berta manages to squeeze inside and crawls heavily over the bed, making the mattress springs let out a sickening, screeching groan. In the reflection of her old school trophies, Hannah can clearly see the giant entity sitting right on the edge of the bed, patiently waiting for her to start eating. Terrified and staring at the mattress completely sagging under Berta's colossal weight, Hannah begins to mindlessly shovel food into her mouth, eating without stopping until every single container is bone dry. But Berta just stays right there, staring her down, because she knows it still isn't enough. She needs to eat more, way more. Once her father finally steps away, she sneaks out to the kitchen, grabbing every piece of food she can carry back to her room. On top of that, she rips down one of the security cameras her mother installed and aims it directly at her bed, hoping to catch Berta the next time she materializes so she can finally have definitive proof that what she's experiencing is real. Reviewing the footage later, we see Hannah waking up in the dead of night. At first, she is just mindlessly eating until her stash is completely cleared out. That's when she watches in pure horror as the camera reveals that once out of food, she resorted to devouring all of her mother's body lotions and makeup. Despite the obscene amount of stuff she swallowed, her weight continues to plummet drastically to the point where her bones are starting to visibly protrude. She is now closing in on 45 kilograms, meaning she has dropped 33 pounds in just 2 days, a detail that is absolutely terrifying. Suddenly, a faint noise outside her door catches her attention, and when she opens it, she finds that her father has left her a plate of pancakes. She steps out to apologize for snapping at him the previous night, and we can visually grasp that her father is also morbidly obese, almost to the exact same degree Berta was. That afternoon, she goes to campus and confesses everything to her best friend, Josie. She explains that she manufactured her own version of the pills and is now losing weight at an alarming speed. But when a baffled Josie asks where on earth she managed to source human ashes, Hannah reveals the grim truth. She used Berta's remains, and now she is seeing her everywhere, as if her ghost is constantly stalking her. But no matter how hard Hannah tries to prove that Berta is real and get her to notice the reflections, Josie can't see a thing. They decide to wait it out in the lab until Hannah's blood sugar levels plummet. Right at that second, Berta flies into a rage and violently hurls some heavy computer monitors across the room, an event Josie witnesses firsthand, which completely convinces her that Hannah is telling the truth. Desperate, Hannah rushes to the nearest diner and shovels down a mountain of food in a matter of minutes, successfully getting Berta to back off for a moment. That's when she reveals the terrifying paradox to Josie. The more she eats, the thinner she gets, but Berta's entity grows increasingly massive and powerful. It's as if the ghost is literally consuming her from the inside out. With Josie's help, Hannah manages to break into the records office to steal Berta's confidential medical file. Using the data from the paperwork, they track down and contact Berta's former best friend, who tells them that Berta used to be a vibrant, incredibly happy person until a routine checkup revealed a few tiny spots on her pancreas. The doctor told her it was was benign and nothing to lose sleep over. The exact same line Hannah's doctor fed her just a couple of days ago. Hannah realizes with absolute dread that she is tracking the exact same fatal path. The friend tearfully confesses how much she regrets not pushing harder to help her back then, explaining that Berta completely isolated herself from everyone, just like Hannah is doing now, because she was too deeply ashamed to let anyone witness what was happening to her body. Hannah believes she has finally cracked the code to get Berta to leave her alone once and for all. She spends the rest of the day meticulously monitoring her body, ensuring her blood sugar levels stay strictly above 6. Believing she has a temporary handle on things, she heads back to her parents' house, only to walk in and find her mother frantically scrubbing down her refrigerator. Furious, her mother demands to know what on earth has been going on in that room over the last few days and why everything is a total wreck. But the only thing Hannah cares about right now is retrieving her hidden stash of ashes. Panic sets in when her mother casually mentions she threw them out, thinking they were just debris. Hannah bolts downstairs to the building's main trash depot, desperately ripping through every single garbage bag until she finally locates the container with Berta's ashes. Now she can proceed with her plan. The real nightmare begins while she is waiting for the elevator to go back up. The air grows heavy, and we see Berta materialize to hunt her down, violently hurling heavy trash cans across the room with superhuman strength. Hannah manages to scramble back into the apartment, but she is hit with a devastating reality. There is absolutely nothing left to eat, as her mother cleared out and threw away anything she considered junk food. Amidst the chaos, her mother corners her with the medical charts in hand, demanding to know what those strange dark spots on her scan mean. Just as Hannah is about to assure her that it's benign tissue and nothing to lose sleep over, she looks down at the image and realizes in pure horror that the film has changed in real time. She can now clearly see a highly aggressive cancer spreading across her entire pancreas and rapidly creeping toward her liver, tracking Berta's exact fatal diagnosis. Right at that moment, her mother hears a strange noise at the front door, and when she steps out to open it, the door violently flies inward, knocking her out cold on the floor. The only thing Hannah can do in a blind panic is drag her mother into her bedroom and lock her inside for protection. Turning around to face Berta head-on, the entity immediately unleashes a brutal assault, slamming Hannah against the walls and violently dragging her by the hair. The next thing Hannah feels is pure horror as Berta collapses her colossal weight on top of her, starting to literally crush the bones in her chest. Desperate and suffocating, she reaches out with her one free arm, grabs a bottle of detergent, and chugs the whole thing. This forces Berta to release her grip instantly, as the entity realizes that if Hannah dies, their mystical bond will break forever. The moment she is freed from the crushing weight, Hannah violently vomits up the toxic liquid and bolts out of the apartment. She runs at breakneck speed toward the nearest convenience store. Once inside, she desperately shoves her face directly into the Slurpee machine, wildly devouring every bit of sugar in sight in a frantic bid to spike her blood sugar levels and drive the phantom away. Once she makes sure Berta is nowhere to be seen, she rushes back to the lab and locks herself inside the study room, while Josie stands outside, desperately yelling and asking what on earth she is doing. Hannah reveals that if the ashes triggered this curse, then cutting them out of her body will break the bond forever. Right after that, she snorts a heavy dose of ketamine and waits for the anesthetic effects to kick in. As the ketamine takes hold, Hannah lays flat on the metal table, determined to perform self-surgery to remove her own pancreas, where she is certain the ashes have settled, and rid herself of Berta once and for all. The problem is, the moment she starts losing consciousness, intense hallucinations take over, and she suddenly finds herself trapped inside a giant trash bag, surrounded by all the rotting food and waste she has gorged on since she started popping the pills. With a scalpel in her trembling hand, she slices a deep incision into her own abdomen. But just as she manages to lay eyes on her pancreas, something monstrous emerges from the darkness. We watch as Berta materializes, significantly larger and more grotesque than before, sporting a cavernous mouth that could swallow her whole. She inches closer with slow, deliberate steps, leaving Hannah with only a few agonizing seconds to finish the job and rip the pancreas out of her body before she is completely devoured. When Berta finally snatches her, she rips the pancreas from her hands and shoves it into her mouth. Hannah can feel the sheer horror of the entity gnawing and chewing on her own hand, but a few seconds later, Berta vanishes into thin air. In that sudden silence, Hannah looks up and catches sight of her own former, heavy self staring down at her from the top of the trash chute. With a peaceful smile, her double makes her realize that she was beautiful just the way she was, and that she should have never risked her life to chase an ideal. A few seconds later, Hannah finally jolts awake from the hallucination hallucination, finding herself on the actual lab table, bleeding out rapidly, while a panicked Josie tries to apply pressure to the wound to save her life. In the next scene, we see the lab staff placing Berta's remains into a sealed box and finally wheeling it over to the incinerator to be properly cremated. A few days later, things slowly begin to return to normal. Hannah is still thin, but she is gradually gaining back a healthy amount of weight, while also patching things up with Alana, bringing her a massive spread of food and treats to make up for the damage she caused during her wild episode at her apartment. Alana looks her in the eye and begs her to be completely honest about what was truly going on with her, but Hannah simply confesses that she was so deeply obsessed and determined to be thin that she lost her way down a very dark path. However, she promises she is genuinely trying to make things right now. Seeing her vulnerability, Alana decides to trust her and gives her a real second chance to start over. In that moment, they begin to kiss with such intense passion that Hannah runs her tongue over her neck, tasting her skin. A few seconds later, her mind seems to completely black out, causing the screen to fade to darkness. By the time the camera cuts back, the scene is devastating. We see Alana's lifeless body on the couch, her torso completely ripped open, and Hannah disturbingly savoring every bite now that she has horribly discovered her brand new favorite food. That concludes the film. And remember, if you're going to consume human ashes, at least make sure the deceased had no unfinished business on this earth. Advice that could save you a lot of trouble. See you next time.